Yeah, I think on StreamYard, but not on YouTube. But yeah.
Okay, we are live.
All right. Cool. So hi everybody. Today we have Mark here from Aave, we have Zeb here from Instadapp, and Mathieu, June, and I from Gelato. And we're basically here today to talk to you about a very exciting new feature that Instadapp launched this week. Basically, this is like automated protections for Aave positions on Instadapp. So basically, any Instadapp user on mainnet and Polygon can now enable a protection which basically achieves that you aren't liquidated anymore on Aave if your position is in risk of liquidation. It's quite simple. You can basically just set like your minimum threshold and your wanted threshold, and whenever your minimum is reached, this automation will get you back up to your wanted threshold, so that basically you're never in risk of liquidation. So this feature has been live for a couple of days, and I think today we just want to talk to you about what the benefits are here and how to use it. We want to show you how to use it on the Instadapp UI, and then we will have some more time at the end of it to talk about new exciting things coming up in the universe of Instadapp and Aave and Gelato. All right, so maybe Mark, actually, you know this feature quite well. If you want to start talking about what we kind of did here together to enable these kind of protection automations.
I will give a bit of context to everybody. The cornerstone of decentralized finance liquidity, and especially when we talk about liquidity protocols such as Aave, is that every user position is over-collateralized. So basically, if you are an Aave user that wants some liquidity, your deposit into Aave has to be higher than whatever you take as a liquidity. And why is that? Is that because it's on the blockchain, it's permissionless, and anybody can deposit and borrow at any point of time. We need to make sure that when a position reach a certain threshold and a certain risk, there's the ability to basically make sure that the position go back into healthy territory. And the way DeFi protocol does that is that they allow when a position reach specific risk parameters, when they reach a risky zone, that anybody in the world can pay back the debt on behalf of one user. And obviously, that's not a benevolent action. Liquidator, they are paid for that. They basically access the user collateral below market price. That's what we call the liquidation bonus. And that liquidation bonus can go from 5 to 15%, depending on the asset on Aave. So that's not something you want as a user. And liquidation is really the cornerstone of the security, but that doesn't mean we are happy when liquidation happens, because the user lose money, the liquidator make money, but that's their job, and they keep the network safe and the protocol safe. But if the user has some kind of scheme to self-liquidate himself and to make sure that his situation actually never reach the danger zone that opened the liquidation, everybody wins except the liquidators, but they gonna get other opportunities than this one. And that's basically what has been built, liquidation protection, the ability for anybody to basically use and leverage Gelato and Instadapp technology to make sure they never get liquidated. And I think in DeFi, I would love to see a world where most people never get liquidated, because we never know if the market will go up, we never know if it goes down, but liquidation penalty can be a thing of the past. And thanks to this new set of tools, that's actually useful, and we are going forward on that path.
Nice, yeah. I think actually one really interesting aspect of this is that basically the user automatically kind of liquidates part of his position or part of her position, And the interesting thing about this is, if you think about how forced liquidations normally happen in the market, it's this is like an open function that anybody can call, and then there will be some liquidator bots, highly specialized ones, and they will compete in like a gas price war. They will drive up the gas price insanely. Like some of these liquidations on Aave that you see have a gas cost of, I don't know, a couple of ETH, sometimes up into the tens of thousands of dollars worth, just for the transaction cost to be able to liquidate a position. The reason being that this is like this kind of uncoordinated liquidation market, and basically it's a winner takes all game. You have to be the first one in the block to be able to seize the opportunity of this liquidation. And I think this also kind of translates into why liquidation penalties are quite expensive for users, because protocols like Aave and Maker and so on, they have to kind of finance these liquidation markets, right? And they have to give quite a hefty reward to these liquidators, because these liquidators have to compete in these open gas wars, which have a lot of costs associated to them. At the end of the day, who are the people that benefit from these costs? It's usually the miners, right? So I think the interesting bit here is that this whole like process, this automation, kind of like has no real gas price war associated with it. Of course, liquidations usually happen in times of distress when prices are plummeting and so on. So there usually will be like higher gas prices and network congestion. But still, like Gelato bots can just execute this liquidation like in an isolated environment. They don't have to compete with anybody else trying to execute it at the same time. The way that the Gelato system works is that it has like a decentralized market of bots, and there's a task allocation mechanism. So when a bot gets a task allocated, the bot can be sure that no one else is competing for the task in this instance. And I think this kind of reduces the whole cost of basically health sector or like position management. And at the end of the day, this is good for the user, because the fees the user has to pay for these liquidations are quite low. On mainnet, they're basically just the gas cost for the automation and a small fee. And on Polygon, for example, it's just 0.1% of the collateral that is being used during the automated liquidation. Actually, here maybe it would be interesting for Mathieu, if you want to talk a bit about the technical aspects of this. How does this work? Like, how is it even possible that Instadapp users can basically submit these protections, and then Gelato bots kind of automatically manage their position to reach the threshold that the user specified?
Yeah, for sure. So, so the coin of finance and the protection feature, what we are doing now in this feature is just we will use the flash loan feature of Aave. We will borrow some collateral, user collateral, right? Just the needed amount to reach the wanted yield factor asked by the client, and we will just swap this collateral in debt token, right? The user debt token, and we will repay this debt token in Aave on the user position, right? So at that point, the user position is safe again. And what we do after that is just we will get some collateral of the user position, and we will repay the flash loan. That's it. Basically, that's it. Without entering in too much in detail, but basically it's that.
Yeah. So basically, the magic here once again is Aave flash loans enabling liquidity on demand, and then basically the user just enables the protection, which is smart contracts that enable Gelato bots to manage the user's positions on behalf of the user. And the way the smart contracts work is that the bots really can't do anything else other than taking some of the user's collateral to basically repay the flash loan. And the flash loan is basically just used to repay the debt. And in this sense, basically the position can be managed for the user without the user needing to be there and click buttons. So yeah, maybe Seb, if you want to talk about like Aave on Instadapp, do you like know how many of your users are using Aave on there? Do you have some feeling if this is like a good feature? Like, do you think users will like this feature? And
yeah, so I think automation is actually like one of the most important parts when it comes to DeFi. It's kind of like to me like the next step, because as Mark was saying, everything in DeFi is over collateralized, and then everything requires you to come and actually execute a transaction. So during times of volatility, it gets really, really crazy. And then even just for a general position, like if you were a more casual DeFi user and you put, you want to borrow 5,000 against your 10,000 Ethereum, or maybe a little bit less, and you don't have the time like us that are in the space to constantly pay attention to the position. This is like a life send, and this is also makes DeFi more useful for the everyday person. So when it comes to Aave, I don't have the exact numbers in terms of like who's using automation right now. But last time I looked, we had, I think it was like $4 billion of Aave assets on Instadapp. So that's quite a lot of value that people can automate. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is like when it comes to like protections, that also means that now you can do slightly different things. If you're an advanced user, like if you wanted to leverage, leveraging is very, very hard, especially because you have to come back and pay that back. So if you're able to create a leverage and then set that exactly where you want, you can take these more advanced positions with less risk and with more predictability.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
And what I have to say about this is that the Aave UI is something we put a lot of time on, and we are working a lot to provide the best possible experience. But at the end of the day, that's just a convenience, and that's only a part of the Aave experience. Like if you are a depositor style profile, if you are a speculator that wants to go into leverage, if you are a borrower that look for protection, there's so much more that you can do outside of the Aave UI, the Aave front end. And that's the one point of decentralized finance is the synergies. And right now on Ethereum mainnet, most of our users don't use the Aave website because they use other kind of service, or they use directly other protocols that end up using Aave. And that's something that is super interesting to see when you are building part of the decentralized finance, to see that even your user base is decentralized over protocols and UI and front ends.
Yeah, that's really cool, yeah.
And I'll just add to that. I mean, that's what's really exciting about, the whole space. Like we have these DeFi Legos, and everyone acts more as a primitive. So Aave becomes a primitive that people build different applications and different resources and tools. So for example, like you could do like a short on Instadapp because you're able to do a debt swap. I'm pretty sure you can't do that on Aave, and I'm sure Aave is probably not super interested in doing that, but that's something that, a user can do on Instadapp, right? So I think that's where even Instadapp ourselves are slowly becoming more of like a protocol, a primitive, and allowing other people to build newer functions and what interests them.
Yeah. At this point, I would also like to give a shout out to Kono Finance, which is like the first kind of front end that was shipped with this Aave protection automation enabled. And I think Kono Finance, that the use case there is quite simple. It's mainly for MetaMask users, right? Whereas on Instadapp, obviously Instadapp has way more functionality. So I would recommend users in general to also go to the Instadapp UI and start using that. But yeah, the Instadapp UI then on the other hand has the whole DSA system. You can do so much with it. So even there, you already have two UIs that basically use the same underlying automation for other protections under the hood. And I think like, yeah, anybody building something can easily integrate with it, and that's a typical money Lego. So that's a really great benefit. Actually, maybe it's time now for me to quickly show people how to use the feature on Instadapp. June, I'm gonna share my screen quickly. Let's see. Yep. Can you see my screen, everybody?
All good for me.
All right, cool. So basically, I'm logged into Instadapp here, and I'm on Polygon, obviously, for testing. Polygon is obviously also much nicer. And yeah, I've already created my Instadapp account. So if you're new to Instadapp, you would just have to go to the general setup, creating your Instadapp account, depositing some funds into it. In this case, I already also deposited some of the funds onto Aave. As you can see, I have some small like Matic collateral on Aave, and I actually also have some debt on Aave, I think. Yes, so now as you can see here on the right, there's some strategies. A new one is the protection automation, and that's basically there to enable you to secure your Aave position from liquidation. So you can think of this as enabling Aave without liquidation. You know, you might have an Aave position, even if it's not that risky. Sometimes ETH prices or whatever collateral you have, you know, they crash a lot. You're on the plane, you're on a holiday or something, and you want to be protected during the times that you're offline. When you're not online to react,
it's literally like one button click and you exchange worst case scenario like 5%, 15% liquidation penalty to a worst case scenario like 0.2%. So in one click of a button, that's super powerful. And the protocol is still safe. And it's only like everybody wins in that scenario.
Exactly. So I know people are lazy. I can be lazy too, but this is literally just one click of a button, like Mark said, and you can sleep much better afterwards. You can, you know, go offline, go to the beach, and don't have to worry about any like crazy price crashes or something during that time. I think a lot of people that use these protocols have been liquidated before, especially if you used it for a long time. It's incredibly hard to predict the future here, and we all know how volatile the crypto markets can be. So having something like this enabled just gives you a peace of mind. Yeah. So it's literally just one click. You go here. And basically, as it's described here, once the automation is enabled, your position will get auto-saved by selling your collateral for debt to reduce the liquidation ratio. At the moment, the liquidation threshold for this combination I have, which is Matic collateral and USDC debt. As you can see here, I have some Matic collateral and some debt borrowed here, is 65%. I'm currently at 25%, so this is safe. And actually, this is a bit different from how Kono does it and how Aave displays it. On Aave, you have your health factor. Here on Instadapp, it's a bit different. There, they focus on the liquidation threshold. And basically, the closer you get to this percentage, the liquidation threshold, the more you are in risk of liquidation. So if you go over 65% liquidation threshold here, then you would be in risk of liquidation. So here I can basically define my triggering ratio to 55%. So basically this means that as soon as my position reaches a 55% liquidation threshold, so maybe that's because the Matic price crashes, or that for my position that would be the only scenario really. As soon as it's 55%, then you can define your target ratio, what it should be brought down to again. And here I define 25%, which is my current ratio. So basically now I can go off to the beach and I can be safely assured that if my position were to ever reach 65% liquidation threshold, 55, I mean, this is the triggering ratio, then it would be automatically brought back to 25%, which would basically mean that some of my collateral would be used to repay some of my debt. There's no liquidation penalty then. Of course, there are some fees to pay for this automation, but the fees are quite small. And yeah, so that's basically the automation. You just have to click this button. Here, I already have it enabled, so I could change it now to, I don't know, for example, I could change it to say the triggering ratio should be 50% and the target ratio should be the same. I'm going to upgrade now. Upgrading here basically just means modifying your existing protection. And yeah, that's it. It will be upgraded shortly. And yeah, that's basically how to use it.
So I do want to just add something, because I know that if you're someone who uses a different, if you're used to using Aave on Aave, or if you use Aave on a different dashboard, so on Instadapp, we use debt to collateral ratio. That's how we show the risk parameter. But what I do want to highlight is that it is the same. So even though our numbers may look different, the point at which you would get liquidated in Aave is the same as Instadapp. Because remember, Instadapp is just utilizing Aave. We're not superseding it or changing any of the Aave protocol. So even though the numbers may look a little different, just remember the health ratio and the debt to collateral, whenever they reach their threshold, it's the same place at which you would get liquidated.
Yes, exactly. To be honest, for me, this was also at first a bit confusing, because on the Aave UI itself, which I used a lot before, you do have the health factor, and on Kono Finance as well, you have the health factor. But actually, it kind of grew on me now. I kind of like this now, because at the same time, it also communicates like how much borrowing power you have and so on. So I like this number now, but yeah,
we think this is simpler because it's basically debt divided by collateral. So it's a very simple, so it's 25%, right? Because it's 1/4 of the collateral, which is 400. But then the liquidation threshold part can get very confusing if you supply different assets, right? In this case, you can borrow 65% of Matic, so the liquidation threshold is 65. That's very easy. But if you start adding Bitcoin or stable coins to your supplied collateral, that percentage will change because it will be a combination of all these liquidation thresholds.
Yes. So as we see here now, I just upgraded the protection and now the triggering ratio is 50. I guess, Seb, we could talk about some UX improvements here. This is only the first week. Like, for example, I think it might not be too clear that you have something active. Maybe we could mark this here as like an active protection or something. I'm sure we'll have some feedback from users and also from myself. I'm using this, of course, in the first 2 weeks for how we can make this a bit more clear even. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Like now, basically, the triggering ratio is 50. I just changed that. And from now on, whenever my liquidation threshold on Aave here using Instadapp is 50%, it will automatically be brought down to 25%. And I'm going to be a lot safer afterwards. And basically, this will be permanently like, so you only have to submit this once and then like set it and forget it. It will always do this automatically for you. So say, for example, if the price crashes once and my liquidation threshold or like my triggering ratio reaches 50%, then I will automatically be brought down to 25%. If it crashes even further, this will happen again.
And the good thing is that because it's on Polygon, the transaction fee to actually upgrade your Aave position into an Instadapp managed position, basically, it's less than 1 cent. So there's absolutely no cost of doing that.
Yes. Yeah. All right, cool. I think that's enough for the demo here. Should be clear. Yeah, I'm back now. Cool.
So it's time for alpha?
Yeah,
alpha
it's time for alpha. It's time for some alpha. Who wants to start? I think, Seb, I've been hearing a lot of interesting things about Instadapp. Samyak showed the cross-chain stuff recently.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna push the cross-chain stuff just a second, so I can just highlight a couple things that people haven't paying quite as much attention to. So as you know, we have our interface that's defi.instadapp.io. We also have an open source interface at assembly.instadapp.io. You can also find it on the main interface. That's sort of like where you're going to find the sort of cutting edge integrations. This is our sort of like our dedication to open finance, right? So this is where you don't have to rely so much on the team to build something like what we built today. You can just build on your own and iterate. And so on that side of the app, really quick, you don't have to create another account. It's just another interface, but it does have access to Yearn Finance, Reflexor Finance, and B Protocol recently just integrated their liquidity LUSD pool, which basically will protect you and also do a loop-de-de-doop and somehow makes the interest better. So definitely check it out if you provide LUSD to the stability pool and liquidity. And then we can talk about what we have upcoming, which is Instadapp Interop, which we put a little teaser video, but this is basically our multi-chain infrastructure that we're building. And this is like probably to me one of the most exciting things, because as you see right now, there's this huge fragmentation that's happening in DeFi. You have liquidity that's in a lot of different places, a lot of different chains. And I kind of feel like Interop is just what Instadapp has always done, just to the next level, right? So first we helped you migrate from Sai to Dai. Then we helped you move from Compound to Maker. Then we helped you move from Aave on Ethereum to Aave on Polygon with Gelato, right? And now we're doing the next thing, which is now we're going to let you move your position from anywhere in the networks to another place. So if you had a Compound position in Ethereum, you can bring that all the way to Avalanche on BankQ, or you can bring that to something on Polygon. And yeah, I mean, this is going to be, it's really, really exciting. And I think it's just going to be great. Like, this is something that a lot of people have been wanting to do. It is quite complicated to move your positions around, especially if you have, if you borrowed a lot of money against them, it can get quite complicated.
Nice. That's super cool. I'm really looking forward to that. Actually, some alpha here from the Gelato side. We so far we've only been on Ethereum mainnet, Phantom, and Polygon, right? But we recently shipped to Avalanche as well, to Arbitrum, and to BSC. So we're going to be on more and more chains as well. And I think you'll see the first features soon. Actually, Mathieu, you might have some alpha here. You're working on a feature currently for Uniswap V3, right? That we will probably also deploy on Arbitrum. That might be our first feature on Arbitrum, actually. Do you want to quickly talk about what you shipped there, Mathieu?
Yeah, for sure. We will ship the range order on mainnet and Arbitrum. A range order is a little specific order from if you compare to the limit order, right? Because we cannot exactly limit order do limit order on V3, but V3 allow us to do range order very easily. But what V3 didn't do is just that when your range order is executed, you the range order can be unexecuted in a way that the ticks, the range, when it's crossed, the range order is executed, right? But when the price is going back to the other direction, your range order can be executed, and Gelato come in, and just when the range order will be executed, it will just collect the liquidity, so your range order will be executed and not be unexecuted after.
Yeah. So basically, if you didn't have Gelato, then a range order on Uniswap, like you would have to manually be there again. Like, you would have to basically stay up and check your position all the time to be there at the right moment to withdraw the liquidity again, to basically really consummate this range order. But yeah, with Gelato, basically this auto ejection is automated, so that as soon as your liquidity ticks across, as soon as your range order is basically fulfilled, Gelato will come and withdraw it for you, so that you keep the output tokens. All right, cool.
That's clearly a game changer, especially
That's pretty
for
cool.
Uniswap V3. That was really needed in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Congrats on that.
Yeah, I think the cool thing, actually, we wanted to do that from the very start, but we focused on GUni. Like, GUni is the basically automated liquidity provision on Uniswap V3 that's also now collateral on Maker. Actually, I think some alpha here might be that, first of all, that the debt ceiling will be increased for this on Maker probably pretty soon. Like, there's at least a discussion on the forum there, and a vote going on. It's looking good. And actually, I think Aave, there's also, like, this is not confirmed yet, but it looks like maybe the GUni liquidity tokens will also become collateral on Aave soon. So follow up with this.
Oh.
2 weeks.
Yeah. Nothing confirmed yet. These are just alpha leaks, right? So
But yeah, if we continue on the alpha leak, there's new stuff that have been cooking at Aave for the past few months, and there's like 3 seasons in Web3 development. You have the building season, you have the audit season, and then you have the shipping season. And we spent a lot of months this year and the whole year into the building season. We are officially in the audit season. We are getting at the end of that. So yeah, the shipping season on Aave is very close now. And you can expect a lot of new stuff, new features, and new possibility. And with the center focus on the synergies. Like, Aave always focused on being a toolbox, being a middleware that developers and protocols can up there just find new features and just build on top of it. Like, for example, the flash loan on itself is not very interesting, but when you have flash loan and Instadapp, it becomes accessible to everyone. Where the credit delegation, not very interesting on its own, but when you have like protocol playing on that and use that for example, NFT as collateral, that become interesting. And the shipping season will basically bring a lot of new tools in the toolbox, and we are very excited of how the community will use that and create new stuff for the end users.
Nice. All right. Actually, I had a question about the cross chain stuff as well, Zeb.
Mhm.
Will Instadapp, I mean, you're doing really complex stuff, right? Like moving whole positions over, like from Aave on mainnet to Aave on Avalanche,
Yes.
for example.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So
Yeah.
basically, my position will be like one-to-one ported over to Aave on Avalanche, like the same parameterization, everything.
Yeah, the same settings too. So I mean, it would work even if you had like settings. We meant like if you had like a Uniswap v3 position on mainnet and you bring it to Arbitrum, we would be able to replicate those settings. So you could have the same position. And then
Wow.
just I guess a little bit more on like how that's gonna work. But basically, we're gonna have sort of a validator network that's gonna control these contracts, the interop contracts on all the chains. And then that they're going to communicate and be able to know like, okay, hey, we want 4,000 collateral and 2,000 debt, and it will recreate that position for you on the other chain.
Cool.
And just so everyone knows, like we're going to start with Aave. So Aave is going to be the first one. So we'll do Aave mainnet, Aave Polygon, and Aave Avalanche. So you'll be able to just very easily go between those three.
All right.
Nice.
Cool. Nice.
And there's one tool in the new toolbox that will be very interesting for you guys on this specific thing. So let's have a call.
Yeah.
Discuss about it.
Yeah, I'm also excited to see like once we have that, how much value moves to Avalanche in particular, because that's slightly newer, and I think that one's a little bit more complicated for people to get to. But you know, if the option is there and there's good liquidity mining rewards, I don't see why we won't see more movement in that direction.
Cool. Do you think the main use case for moving positions will be APY and liquidity mining rewards, or?
I actually think it's going to be just having like better debt to collateral ratios. Obviously, APYs are always very like enticing for people, so I definitely think that's going to be number one. But I actually think people like to try different things. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see people trying slightly smaller protocols for the first time by using this. Because, you know, it's like if I want to try something that's new, maybe I don't want to like unwind this position. But if it's a one click, maybe. And then if we have options that will allow you to move part of that position, maybe people will do that and get, you know, oh, let me move half my position to another protocol that's kind of new and see how that goes. But I do think that, you know, people are going to, I think Aave is going to be very attractive because of protection automation, right? So, you know, that feature is only going to be on Aave. So actually, which I have a question, you know, can we expand this to other items, you know, beyond just, you know, Aave? Can we do this with other protocols as well over time?
I think so. I mean, Gelato, just like Aave as well, is, you know, a general protocol. You can build anything on top of it. For this Aave integration, of course, there was a lot of work involved to build the Aave adapters, the Aave integration smart contracts, and so on that you've seen. But technically, anything can be built with Gelato. So that's why Gelato also supports limit orders, all sorts of like, you know, DevOps automation, all these kind of things. We also did the migration from Instadapp Aave positions from layer 1 to layer 2, right, to Polygon back then. So yeah, anything can be built on top of it. It just has to be done. And we're working to ship better tools as well. So Mark, we're following your spirit here. It's toolbox season and documentation season. So yeah. And also, actually, we are going to be on Avalanche very soon, right? So at the moment, the protection automation is only enabled on mainnet and Polygon on Instadapp, right? But we can also enable it probably soon on Avalanche and Arbitrum.
Oh, that's super alpha right there.
Yeah. All right, cool. I think, I think we have like 3 minutes left. So we did get one question from someone in the chat that I'm going to try and answer now. That person, question from Devin on YouTube. It looks like it's selling Matic in order to satisfy the USDC debt. But what if we used Matic as collateral, then borrowed and resupplied USDC for max reward tokens? Can we specify saving just USDC? Anyone want to take this one? So in general, the feature works, the protection automation works by taking whatever is your current highest collateral token, that will automatically be used for the protection. And whatever is your highest debt token will be repaid. So at the moment, the user cannot really specify this. The feature will automatically, but this is on Instadapp, one huge advantage of Instadapp, for example, over Kono Finance, where you can come as a MetaMask user and enable your protection. On Kono Finance, your protection is enabled for only one collateral token and debt token at submission time. So whenever you submit your protection, your collateral token that is then the highest and your debt token that is then the highest in value on Aave will be used for protection. If that somehow changes afterwards, your protection is kind of rendered mute and you have to manually come back and upgrade it. With Instadapp, that's much cooler. With Instadapp, you can submit your protection and it will automatically, like even in the future, the bots will automatically be able to use whatever is your highest collateral token then and your highest debt token then to basically use the collateral token to repay that debt token. Mathieu, correct me if I made a mistake here for the Instadapp integration, or if that is correct what I said.
Yeah, it's correct.
Okay, cool.
So what I would recommend users, if you wanted to not use a particular asset, the best idea would be to silo it by creating another Instadapp account. So create a different account and then just make sure that the correct collateral is in there to pay the correct debt. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and maybe in the future, I think in the future we could enable more granularity here, but I think at the moment, in the beginning, simplicity is best, and less options are sometimes also better than more options. So yeah, let's see how this feature will be used, and then we can probably add more modularity afterwards. There's another question. Super excited. That's the biggest issue with Aave v2 is how to get out of these positions to something cheaper to execute swaps, trades, etc. The one-click dream is what we are all waiting for. Mark, do you want to answer this one? Okay, I think the one-click one was Seb. You mentioned this with Instadapp positions, right? But yeah.
So I think it sounds like this person's reiterating, what is the most challenging part about, yes, you want to be on L2. Yes, you want to pay low fees, but you have a position on Aave and Ethereum is very expensive, and you're having a hard time kind of unwinding that position. It's particularly if you're over leveraged. So yeah, this is what's really exciting about Interop. It's going to be one click. So you're going to be able to just, again, if you don't have an Instadapp account, which I'm assuming you do because it'd be 2 clicks. You'd have to do one to bring your position into Instadapp and then another one to use the Interop service. And yeah, it would be one click. It will move all your assets and your liabilities, so your debt as well. There might be some assets that won't be able to be transferable in the beginning. Remember, not every asset is on every market. But yes, it will be one click, and it should be relatively quick. It should be a couple, no more than 5 to 10 minutes to do the interop, especially between L2s. So that would be that's really exciting as well. So yeah, so stay tuned.
Yeah, maybe Mark, there's something in your toolbox as well to.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's the future. Right now on Aave, most of our users are not in layer 1. So most of the TVL of the market size is on Ethereum mainnet. But what we've seen with the Polygon deployment first, then the Avalanche deployment, is that there's been a huge reserve of users that wanted to use DeFi services, but cannot or didn't want it to pay $100 just to deposit, or maybe $150 to borrow. And that's perfectly understandable, because even if you can afford it, because your position is very large, it always sucks to pay $150 of transaction fee. And so we basically figure out, looking at blockchain data, there's almost no overlap between layer 2 users and layer 1 user. Most of them are brand new users that they discover the ecosystem. And there's also a lot of interesting stuff that happen on layer 2 networks, and each have their own flavors. And it's really interesting to see people and user position move from one layer 2 to another layer 2 to using layer 2 to layer 2 bridge, like Seller Network, or protocol, Connect, all this kind of stuff, to basically profit from the opportunities that several layers offer. And what is the main enabler of that is that you have more and more layer 2 to layer 2 solution without having to touch layer 1. Because let's say you currently on Polygon and you want to try something that happened on Arbitrum, your basic solution will be to move from Polygon to Ethereum layer 1. That will be, I did that like today for something, and it cost me like $180 to do that transaction. Then move your position to Ethereum layer 1 to Phantom, and it's probably going to cost you like $150, so $300 to move from layer 2 to layer 2 if you pass to layer 1. And if you have the ability and the toolbox through the basic functionality of the protocol, and on top of that, the functionality built by the top layer on top of Aave, such as Instadapp, you basically have a much more pleasant experience, and you can do that for 10 cents. And that's just better for everybody involved. That's also interesting for the market, because if you can move more freely between layers, that means the market are more efficient. That means there's more equilibrium that is reached between the rates. That means everybody wins.
I just want to echo that I think that's actually one of the most important parts about making the interop and other movement between markets, in particular being able to bring your debt, is market efficiency. And that's one of the things I'm really curious about, because, you know, if this other markets, the rates are they seem crazy because, you know, they don't have enough liquidity or whatever. But if it does distribute more evenly across the chains, yeah, I think it's going to be a good effect for the overall market as well.
All right, cool. I think we can call it a wrap here. Everybody wins. That's also a nice sentence to finish on, I guess. Oh, there's one more question. Will Interop roll out with the ability to migrate back to mainnet after migrating to another chain?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it will, of course. Yes.
Yeah. So it's going to be basically, you know, Polygon, Avalanche, mainnet, Aave. You can go in any direction you'd like.
Cool. All right. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening in today and for making it to the Fireside chat. Zeb and Mark, thanks a lot for visiting us today. And yeah, I guess we will see you next time whenever we have a Fireside chat like this with some more alpha.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.